I think lofty goals can be very dangerous for the ambitious because lofty goals, I don't think, speak to the deepest part of us as human beings. We haven't evolved to really fully understand lofty goals, and they can be helpful. Like if your lofty goal is to end world hunger, that's great, but I think you should formulate that not as end world hunger, but say, this particular country, I don't want anyone to ever starve to death again, or I want this village to have complete resource abundance. You want like a precise vision and a precise outcome. This has been said a lot before, but I want to take it to another level, to a level where I almost feel ashamed to say it, but after a little bit of thinking, I've decided that it really is effective. So rather than have an abstract amount of money that you want, or an abstract outcome like, I want to, in my case, I want to be a writer, like I want to sell 1 million copies. That's interesting, but it's so much just based on like this vision that I've thought up that may or may not have that much connection to reality. Whereas recently, very materialistically, I found a watch that I want, an expensive watch. And last night I just started thinking, what if I don't focus on all that stuff? What if I focus on this watch? And strangely, it was more powerful, not because I want the watch more than I want to write a great book and sell 1 million copies, but because I think humans are just wired to kind of worship totemic objects, to focus on not some like lofty notion, but a thing, like a real thing that's maybe representative of a lofty notion. Like think about the earliest religions. The earliest religions were not, we worship God, this invisible force all throughout the universe or in the sky. The earliest religions were, we worship this wooden statue, we worship this rock, we worship this bear skull, because it's easier for us to focus on that as a representation, maybe of something very complex and something beautiful, something sophisticated. But day to day, it's easier to worship the skull than to worship all these abstract ideas. And I think that's what's happening with the watch and my artistic goals is the watch, and this is probably why men especially like expensive watches, is kind of this like holy idol of a level of success that I want to get to, a level of financial freedom I want to get to. And if I just think about that, it's strangely more compelling than thinking about these other things that I would be much more proud to be inspiring to, and which I do aspire to. But if you're ashamed to focus at all materialistically, I think that just hurts you. Now, you don't want to get completely lost in like clout, like I want the watch to flex on people. But I think if you don't invest your hopes and dreams into like discrete and specific objects, goals, the kind of vision board idea, if you don't do that, you're kind of leaving a lot of motivation just on the table. You're demanding too much of yourself, and I think you're giving yourself a little bit too much credit as a human being, because we're not, for how long has the average person been able to say something like, I want financial freedom? What we've wanted is food on our tables, or better mud between the stones of our medieval village houses, or 20 more cows, or a fence around our fields. Do you see what I mean? Like we've lived in this world of objects, of materials for so long, in this world of ideas for such a short period of time, that I just don't think they're as effective. And luckily, we can have this conversation. We can think about this as a strategy. We are that advanced. We can say, I want to end world hunger. I want to create this beautiful thing. But to drive myself to it, I'm going to also think about how this might get me girls or attention or money or a nice watch. Do you see how if you just put them together, it just taps into something a bit more primal and a bit more effective? And this isn't something that should really be talked about a whole lot. It's a weird thing. I'm talking about it now because I think it's useful, but I wouldn't like talk about this with my friends really, because it's fundamentally not interesting to say, I want a nice watch. It's a lot less interesting than these other reasons I have. But interesting does not equal effective. Interesting does not equal wakes me up in the morning to go do something. Interesting does not equal I can look down at my wrist every day when I have that watch and say, here's a representation of all I've done. And then here's what I have yet to do. And then maybe put another milestone in my future. And you don't have to take it completely seriously. That's the beautiful thing. You don't have to actually worship material objects. but you should a little bit. Just a little. That's all.